What is up, my beloved troglodytes? It's me, Big Don Tom, your favourite Elden Ring YouTuber. Yep, I've claimed it. I'm your favourite now. Anyway, today I will be beating Elden Ring as the one and only Jesus Christ. The rules for this one are fairly simple. I have to look the part of Jesus Christ, and I can only use weapons that Jesus Christ would have used. Which is a weird sentence. You wouldn't think Jesus Christ used many weapons, but he used about one in the Bible. He used the whip. Here's the quote on screen because I can't remember off the top of my head. But hey, it's part of the rules. I'm allowed to use whips. And I am allowed to use summoning ashes, but only humanoid ones because they will work as my disciples. And this is as close as I could get to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I mean, I think it looks pretty good. I then grabbed the finger that's in this, the start of Elden Ring. I killed myself, but I came back because I'm currently playing as Jesus Christ. And then, intro, went over to the church, spoke to the woman, got me horse, carried on with my life, how it is. And with my newfound horse, I went straight to Weeping Peninsula and realized I missed a great opportunity to make a donkey joke. Because, Bethlehem, donkey, Mary-Lac, you know the nativity. Anyway, I went straight to the castle, so I could go get the whip item, because that is the first weapon I will be using in this run. Whilst I was going to go get my whip, I got the Side of Grace, I died to a bunch of rats, I then picked up my whip and badibada got my whip. I then, while I was in the area, went and got the 2 sacred tears that are here, so that I could drink my flask more effectively, and won't be spilling it down myself anymore. And then, yippee, back to the box standard progression. I went to Fort Height. Is it Fort Height? Which one is this? I don't care. Do you care? No, you don't. I died, and then I came back, because, I'm Jesus Christ. That's going to happen a lot in this playthrough. Then I got the medallion, and then I dipped. And then did the rounds as you do. Got my talisman. Went and got my physic. My wondrous physic. It ain't that wondrous. And my sacred tear from the Church America. And then, look, it's Garank! Say hello, Garank, everyone. We love Garank. Comment hello, Garank. And then Horsewoman appeared, and she grabbed my hand and took me to the Round Table Hold. I then ran all the way through Caelid so I could go to the second fort, so I could get the second medallion half, because it's important. I also picked up the Redahn Sword seal while I'm here, because you never know when you're gonna need it. I then pulled up to Ranni so I could get my little bell so I could do my summoning. And remember, while you're here, you should like, subscribe, and comment. Today we'll be commenting your favourite colour. Whoever has the best favourite colour gets absolutely nothing. I then fought this guy who has like this blood shit. I can't remember why. He's dead. He just died. And then Patch's Cave. Woo, Patches, woo. Managed to get my first outfit in Patch's Cave. And then I fought Patches. I spurred him because that's what Jesus would do. I talked to Tentacle Woman and got the jellyfish, which I'm not going to use, obviously. I then tried to fight Margit. Try the keyword there, I had my ass handed to me on a silver platter. I then went all the way back to Weeping Peninsula so I could kill this tree fella so I could get the Ultraline Bubble tier and the Crimson Burst tier. I then picked up the Dragon Shield Rest Talisman and decided, because I'm an idiot, that I want to go fight Margit again. Well, as you could probably predict it if you have more than 2 brain cells in your head, he proceeded to kick my shit in and insult my entire bloodline. So in my never-ending genius, I decided to go all the way to Caelid to get the Poison Mist Ash of War. Little did I know, the Poison Mist Ash of War doesn't work on whips. But the journey wasn't completely a waste because I do go get the first wet blade. I then killed this bug so I could be determined. I then went around to every single trader buying all the stones that they were selling so I could upgrade my whip. So I could fight Margit again, where I immediately died. Then I decided to grind some runes using the ball method. Then it was finally time for me to exact my revenge on Margit the Fell Omen. So Margit fell like the coward he is, and it was finally time to go run through Stormveil, which isn't exactly the most interesting thing in the world, so we're just gonna skip it. I don't care. Oh look, I'm running through, look at the clips on screen, ooh, you need some Subway Surfers in the corner? I hope not. Anyway, Godric time. And just like that, I defeated Godric the Grafted. It wasn't the easiest fight for me for some reason. I absolutely choked a lot of times in that fight. It was the first try though, so thumbs up. So I pulled up in the Liurnia of Lakes because Elden Ring progression. Grabbed me Tia first for me last because I need, heals. I then did a map run where I went and grabbed the map. And then I met a beautiful lady. The most beautiful lady I think I've ever laid my eyes upon. My beautiful snaky wife, Rhea. Rhea gave me a quest to go get her necklace back, so being the good man I am, I immediately went and dealt with that. So I pulled up at this guy with this metal mask. He's like, hey, I got this necklace. Give me 1,000 pounds, runes or whatever for it. And I'm like, okie dokie, have the money. So I don't think Jesus would have killed him just because he was a thief. He's all about forgiveness. Then I returned to Rhea and gave her her necklace back, and she was a happy little lady. Then after that wild, wacky adventure, I pulled up at this mine, the Rhea Crystal Mine, Rhea Crystal Tunnel, you can see it on screen. So I could go fight the boss, get the bell bearing, which was really easy because he's weak to strike. So I won. And obviously I needed runes, so I went and did the ball method again and grinded for some runes. And after I grinded, I used the runes to upgrade all my weapons. I then went to the dragon so I could go in between his legs to get his key, And while I was in the area, I went to visit EG. Comment, I love EG, and I will do absolutely nothing. I went through the gate of Lucaria Academy so that I could go to the Bellum Highway, so I could go up the elevator, so I could go see Mr. Goldmask. But first, I grabbed the gear that's at the church. Then I went up the lift, as you can see right now. Then I arrived in Altus Plateau, where I immediately beelined for the Golden Mask, because he's a key step in getting our first incantation. So I went and talked to this, religious fella about, the Golden Mask, and he left the round table hold, and just started wandering about, and was in the middle of Altus for some bizarre reason. So I told him where the Golden Mask was, and he was like, whoa, yippee! And then he started selling the Light Discus Incantation, which is our first and most useful incantation of this run. I also got the Golden Order Seal. And then, by coincidence, in the same area is this funny hidden tunnel, which has this little bell bearing in it, which will help upgrade my whip. And I presume I upgraded my weapons after doing that entire quest, but I actually didn't clip it, so I have not a clue. I presume so, though. I then ran all the way through Lucaria Academy so I could get to the Red Wolf of Radagon, who you're going to see right now I demolished. Peter, don't come knocking on my door. And just like that, the Red Wolf of Radagon was the dead Wolf of Radagon. I then decided to do Vike's questline, so first things first, I went and touched some fingers, the big rotting fingers, woohoo, finger time. Anywho, I then went to Vice, whatever they want to call him, he doesn't mind, and told him that the fingers, they were a little unsettling, they were a little too wiggly for my liking. So he was like, yeah lad, and then he told me to go kill this Mr. Beast guy. Apparently he was giving too much money to charity. I then went back to where the game started and killed this weird creature, this grafted scion, so I could get the blood of a maiden. Then Viray mutilated my little fingers so I could go to Mogwyn's palace, because you know what, I want this video to be out in a reasonable time, I say, as I'm recording this voice line a month after my last upload. So I am allowing myself to be able to use the bowbird farming method because I don't want to have to grind for a billion runes. I then used some of the runes I had gathered to go upgrade my Golden Order seal. I also, while I was out on my wacky hijinks, went and got the wet blade, the frost one, magic one. I also killed Moongrum, which was strikingly easy this time around compared to last time when he was carrying the ever-loving shit out of me. I then tried to fight Rennala and proceeded to die. In my notes, all I wrote was holy spam, so I must have been spammed the shit out of, as you can see on screen right now. And apparently, I took that personally because I immediately went and grinded. And I must have grinded hard, because next time I fought this bitch, this happened. I don't know if they buffed this bitch or something, but she just, every time I got close to her, just summon, 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 and that blows you back, and I couldn't get to her. It was bullshit. I hate this boss. I'm glad she's dead. After sending that bitch to her grave, I decided it'd be a great idea to finally go to Carrion Manor and run all the way through it. I then got to the end and fought the boss, obviously, but Loretta fell very quickly, so you're not seeing it. And then on my way to Ranni's Rise, I got the Chilling Mist Ash of War, which I can't use anyway. Pretty sure I can't use it. Teach me, can I use it? It's on screen now. I then spoke to Ranni, as you do when you're in Ranni's Rise, and I agreed to help Ranni with her quest. I then went to this creepy guy whose name I can't pronounce, and he gave me a quest to go drug a human so I could make them into a puppet? What a weird guy. I obviously then went to Sir Gideon Alfnir. I've been told to get this potion until I drug this person. That's not good. And then he's like, nah lad, give it me. And I'll make sure that he doesn't know, and you can still go get your little guy. Our maiden in my case, because I picked the Finger Maiden, because she will be the most useful. I say that knowing I only used her in the Godskin Duo fight. And then finally, it was time for me to go to the Redahn Festival. Woo, look, it's the Redahn Festival. Look, it's the woman I just bought. Woo, look, it's the Jari boy. All the cool characters. Woo, Redahn Festival. Woo. Then obviously, after the Redahn Festival, it was finally time to fight Redahn, where I proceeded to die a couple of times, but you always know what happens after I say this line. To show you the part where I kill him, you know, I like edit it down. So without further ado, which drum roll please, me fighting Redahn, woo! And just like that, Redahn was defeated. Surprisingly easy. I usually struggle with him. I then entered Redahn's hole, as we so lovingly call it on this channel. Immediately just ran past everything because I didn't care. Straight to the Mimic, who I immediately killed, so I could get to this secret area here. And then I ran for it so I could go get the wet blade. And then, while I was out doing my shopping, I decided just for Ranni just to pick up, the fingerprint blade, because she kind of wanted it, and I thought I'd treat her, because, I'm a nice person. So I give the fingerprint blade to Ranni. She's like, yeah, lad, yeah. My snaky wife finally wants me to meet her parents, so she escorts me to Volcano Manor, where I speak to her mother figure so I can steal a key off of her, so I could run all the way through to Volcano Manor. Also, look at this really important bridge. It has a whole cutscene. So I can challenge this fat boy to a fight. The fat boy kills me a couple times, he kills me a lot, so I decided to go grinding instead. I then went and got another talisman pouch because I killed enough bosses to get one already, and then went and grabbed 2 talismans. First of all, the turtle talisman. And then I had to go to this cave where I absolutely shit on this boss, never show your face around here again, so I could get this talisman, the winged sword insignia talisman. And after I partook in all of them wacky hijinks, I decided that I was going to go upgrade my weapons. After I upgraded my weapons, I decided to go fight the Godskin fat boy again. I died a couple times, but finally I beat his sorry excuse for a boss. I then ran through Volcano Manor, getting the Royal Knight's Resolve Ash of War, and picking up the Somber Stone 7 for my seal. And then while I was out, doing my shopping, I decided to go get the other 2 stones, the 8 and 9 that are in Caelid. I also went back to Mogwyn's Palace so I could go get the Somber Stone 10 that's in the chest here on screen. Then obviously after getting all of these upgrade materials, I upgraded my weapon. And then while I was, just in altars for some reason, I decided to go kill baby Margit. He's dead now. And then I finally stumbled upon the Tree Sentinel, so I decided it was finally time for me to fight him. And just like that, I put the Tree Sentinel down like the dog it was, and I can move on with my life. I pulled up in Lindell, where this woman was like, "Hello, thank you, I'm here now, you brought me to my tree, I'm off, see ya." Keep this, home dogs, I'm making like my catchphrase whenever I show a shortcut now. But look at this awesome shortcut that you can just do. You can just skip like the whole weird lift section and just run straight through. I got this sight of grace, and it was finally time for Godfrey, but Ghost Godfrey, not the real one. Godfrey? More like God dead, the way he be in the grave right now. As a reward for my epic display of skill, I got a new talisman pouch. I then proceeded to absolutely shit on this black knife and to get the blessing of the Erdtree. And then it was finally time for Margit. Like, he proceeded to shit on me, put me in my place, make me his little bitch. And after all that anger had boiled up inside of me because the amount of times I died to this motherfucker, this happened. 3-0, Margit. I've killed you 3 times. You haven't even bested me once. Ignore all the times he bested me. They didn't happen because I respawned. They're not canon. So I touched this tree. It was sharp because it was covered in thorns. So I hurt my little finger. Then this lady came up to me. She was like, yeah, I have this medallion. And I was like, yippee, medallion. So I took a lift, got a talisman. Took another lift, and then yippee, mountaintops of the giants, woo! And first things first, I go grab the bell bearing that's here so I can upgrade my weapon even further, but first I needed to grind for some runes because your boy is broke. After grinding for some runes, I obviously upgrade my weapons, and then you know why I'm in the round table hold, I make Rodrika get a job. And then I upgraded my ashes, ran a little further into the mountaintops of the giants, and decided I wanted the Thorny Whip, because I feel like it's kind of thematical, you know, like Jesus, he had the crown of thorns, he used a whip made of thorns. I think that's kind of awesome, you know, like, I think that's a pretty cool weapon for him to have, so I decided I'm going to use that one, so I started grinding for it. And because I am God's least favourite little goober, this grind took well over an hour. For a fucking whip, I got the full set of armour. As I wrote in my notes, I got fat. And after what I can only describe as too long, the whip finally graced me with its presence. Then proceeded to upgrade it. Obviously, I didn't grind all that way to not upgrade this weapon. I then backtracked a little and just committed murder on this guy so I could steal a medallion off of him. I then ran through the first bit of the mountaintops of the giants, so I could get the somber bell bearing and the tier ladder in this church. I then carried on running through the mountaintops of the giants until I stumbled across this castle, where I proceeded to die a couple times trying to get through it, till I finally got to the end where the boss was. Then I decided I don't care enough, man, I'm just going to use the bewitching branch. Where I then proceeded to win and beat the boss up here. It wasn't impressive, it wasn't cool, you're not seeing it. I then grabbed the medallion half because I need it for progression, obviously. And then I got attacked by the bony boy, the bone man, the Mr. McBones, Bony McBone. And I killed him. I then immediately had an extremely silly death, hoisted my secret medallion, which completely ran through, because there's not really anything interesting here. Got this Sight of Grace, and then just ran through again until I got to this little quaint town. I then attempted this Everjail, where I proceeded to die more times than I can count. To the point where I have written in my notes just the word bullshit, and decided to quit for the night and go to sleep. The void decided that it was time to consume me, so I died. I then died a bunch more times trying to do this fuck-ass Everjail, until I finally succeeded and lit the final light, so I could finally travel to Malenia's big rotting tree. I then proceeded to die, and then after I died I killed this annoying bitch. I have a personal vendetta against this enemy. Don't question it. I got this Sight of Grace, and then I got this Dragon Smithing Stone. And then I got this other Sight of Grace, and boom, lift time, and then it was finally time for me to fight Loretta. I say time for me to fight Loretta, what I actually mean is time for me to get violated by Loretta. I died a whole 4 times, and then this happened. Loretta was shockingly easy. Usually I struggle a lot more with Loretta. As I went deeper into the Haligtree, I grabbed this smithing stone, and then stopped at this site of grace, because site of graces are important in Elden Ring, thumbs up. I then got another stone and another site of grace, how exhilarating. I then died, and for some reason my character was really eager to go see Malenia, because I fell into this big hole. If you don't know, this hole goes straight to Malenia's arena. After I finally got my act together, I went to this site of grace where I obviously rested, and then carried on through all the tunnels with bullshit, you don't need to see it, but I could get this talisman, the Dragon Great Shield Crest Talisman. At least that's what I think it's called. Because it was finally time for me to start progressing the game again, I went back to the mountaintops of the giants, where I killed this random fella outside this church. Then I decided it was time for the fire giant fight, where I proceeded to die a whole 1 time, and it was like an instant death, and then I finally locked in. And just like that, the fire giant had died easily. Rest in peace, my big brother. He's just like me for real. I also have a giant eye and mouth on my chest. And then I talked to a woman, and because talking to me is so insufferable, she sets herself on fire and kills herself, and somehow her suicide teleports me to Farmer Azula. Don't question it, just how it happens. So I run through Farmer, you know, as you do at this point in the game. Duh. So I could go fight the Godskin Duo. But the Godskin Duo, shit in my mouth. They made me their bitch. I hate the Godskin Duo. If you're a long-time viewer of this channel, if you're an OG Big Don Tommer, you know that the Godskin Duo is the bane of my existence. And because at this point, you know, it's personal, I decided to do a flask run to max out my flask. So I go hither, I find Vike, I kill Vike, I get his tear, I find this other guy, I kill him, I get his tear, and then I get this tear, and then I go to this town where I get my last tear. And then, because I was still struggling with the Godskin Duo, I go to this cave so I can get the Godskin Swaddling Cloth Talisman, which ironically means I have to beat the Godskin Duo so I can get more powerful to beat the Godskin Duo. I obviously die like a billion times, like literally so many times, and then I go grinding in between deaths sometimes. It honestly, the reason this video has taken so long to make again is because the Godskin Duo, as in these fucking ghost ones and the actual ones, absolutely crushed my spirit and they made me just not want to play Elden Ring. After my very, very short hiatus, I came back with an evil plan. So basically, I was going to kill these bosses that are in this cave that you've just seen on screen, so I could get the Golden Scarab Talisman. You see, what this does is it boosts the amount of runes you get, so when I'm grinding, I can grind more efficiently, so I can get nice and buffed up before I fight the Godskin Ghosts again. And fight the Godskin Ghosts I did. On my first attempt, I got extraordinarily close to winning. On my second attempt, I kinda kicked the bucket, I kinda shit the bed, didn't do very well. Well, on the third attempt, I won! Woo! I killed them, they're dead! Woo! Finally, took too long. I didn't realise you had to kill the snail as well, so the snail lived for a while. And I finally got the Godskin Swaddling Cloth Talisman. Now that is a mouthful of a talisman. And then in my infinite wisdom, I decided to go fight the Godskin Duo again, because I hate fun apparently. And of course I got my shit kicked in so many times. I then decided to grind for some extra runes, because I'm a little rune goblin and I love runes. I also went and got a larval tier so I could rebirth. Here is what my stat allocation after the rebirth looked like. In a past life, I must have angered God. I must have done something abhorrent. Because the amount of times I died to this boss, I died, grinded, died, grinded. I just couldn't, I couldn't beat it. I'm sorry, this was meant to be. I know at the start I said summons were allowed, but I was going to try and do a summon this. But the Godskin Duo wore me down. They crushed my spirits, crushed my souls. I hate the Godskin Duo. This was a hollow victory. It wasn't a real victory. I had to use summons. I basically gave up in the end. I'm just gonna say, they bested me. I could have thrown my head at the wall for hours. I could have tried and tried and tried, but they bested me. They wore down my brain. They wore down my determination. I just can't. The Godskin Duo beat me to this day. But I will be back for my revenge. I'm not even justifying them by editing it down so you can all watch it. It was a bad fight, it wasn't entertaining, it wasn't even fun to do. But they are dead now, and I can justly move on with my life. Anywho, I used the runes from the Godskin Duo to upgrade my weapons. Yay, I get to progress the game again, so I ran through Farm Missoula, as you do after you fucking kill the Godskin Duo. And I arrived at this lift that you can see on screen. This is just, we're all recuperating still from the Godskin Duo, we're allowed to take our time on this part. Then it was time for the Tree Sentinel, which, after how much I got embarrassed by the Godskin Duo, this guy just died. I mean, I think he killed himself in the end, he was so easy to kill. But it's funny because I usually struggle with that fella. Same can't be said for Maliketh though. Maliketh reminded me that this game is actually quite difficult at times. I died more times than I can count. And after all these trials and tribulations, it was finally time for me to fight Maliketh. You see, that's how you make an entertaining boss that's still difficult. You make him cool, and don't just make him a reused asset that you've seen a billion times already in the fucking game. I hate the Godskin Duos. No, fuck it, I'm not over it. Fuck the Godskin Duo. Anyway, Maliketh failed, and it was time to go to the Ashen capital. And I thought the Godskin Duo was difficult. Little did I know that this motherfucker with a magic stick was about to kick my shit in over and over and over again. In my little notebook, which I used, you know, to know what's happening in these videos, I have literal pages of dead, died, death, died, because the amount of times this motherfucker put me in the grave. It's fucking Sir Gideon Alfnir. I should not be struggling with Sir Gideon Alfnir. You know the worst part? The fight wasn't even entertaining enough for me to edit down into something for you to watch. I suffered for the sake of absolutely fucking nothing, because some bullshit decided that, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be able to fucking two-shot me with his Omega Laser bullshit. So anyway, I killed him, he died, and we got to move on to an actually good boss. It was finally time for me to go fight Godfrey. Godfrey did put me in my, you know, place a couple times, but in the end, we got it done. Here's the fight. You get to watch this one, finally. And just like that, Godfrey had fallen. And we all know what happens after Godfrey. It's time for Jesus to face the Elden Beast and Redahn. And just like that, we have definitively proved that Jesus is stronger than every boss in Elden Ring and would beat them all in a fight. I do not want to hear any debate about this. These solos. Anywho, that was a fun run, all things considered. I do quite like the Bible, even though I don't personally say I'm a Christian. I do think it's a very interesting book to read, and this challenge did give me a lot of excuses to go do research on it, which, you know, I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to religious stuff, so that was really fun for me. Looking on screen now, you can see my stats that I had during this run. I was level 150, which is higher than I usually go to on these challenges, but ayo. Here's the equipment and talismans I used, and all my, like, armor and stuff, and here's how long it took to beat the game. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. It's been a fun one, it's been a good one. This took way too long to make. I hate the Godskin Duo.